understand those things. But when it comes to a non-specialized audience, or when we are talking to the people who are not related to that particular field, then it would not be that easy to understand those things. So that is the difference between specific audience or non-specific audience, or else you can say specialized and non-specialized audience. Let us move ahead with the next point. When we are talking about communication, there comes meaning always. And what is meaning? In other words, we can call it semantic. And when there goes something wrong in the process of communication, it's called semantic gap. And semantic gap, that means gap of understanding. Semantic, that means meaning. So gap of understanding, that is semantic gap. As we talked earlier about hurdles, barriers, noise, due to those things, due to those factors, due to those hurdles, there remains a semantic gap between the sender and the receiver. So we have to remove, we have to avoid, we have to overcome those things. Now, first let us understand how to convey a particular meaning that you want to convey. Because when you are using words while you are speaking or while you are writing, where you place those words, it conveys a meaning. And generally we say that dictionary conveys meaning, or dictionary helps us to find out the meanings of the words. But up to certain extent it is correct, it is right, but not all the time, because words don't carry any meaning. Words don't have their own meanings. The way you are using those words, the way you are placing those words in your own use and usage, it gives a particular meaning to the word. For example, have a look on the following example. I eat rice only. I only eat rice. Now see, this is just a 4-word sentence. I is one, eat second, rice third, only fourth. There are only 4 words in the sentence, and in both the sentences there are the same 4 words which are used. But do you think it conveys the same meaning? No, never. In the first one, I eat rice only. That means I don't eat anything else, and I eat only and only rice, nothing else, no other dish, no other item. This is the meaning. And in the second one, I only eat rice. That means I don't cook, I only eat. I don't play with the rice, I don't do anything else with the rice. I only eat rice, right? Or else you can say even only I eat rice. That means no one else, it's only me who is eating rice. So that is the placement of words, and that is how the meaning is being conveyed to your receiver. So we have to be very careful while we are communicating with someone, how you are using your words, where you are placing your words, in what sequence, in what arrangements you are drafting your sentence and words and all these things. It conveys a particular meaning to your receiver. So that's very important. What kind of meaning you want to convey, accordingly you have to draft your message, whether it is in oral form or may it be in written form. When it comes to meaning, it comes to language, because language conveys meaning. I mean, through language, through using a language, we are conveying our meaning in our communication process. Let us have a quick look on certain characteristics of language. The very first thing that we can talk about language is artificial. Why? Because it's a man-made system. Man modifies meaning of words as per the need, as earlier we talked. That the way we are using those words, it conveys the meaning in that particular way, right? So it depends on the context, right? In what context you are using what kind of words, it conveys meaning accordingly. So it is a completely man-made system, and we ourselves, we modify our meaning with our own way of using those words while we are speaking, while we are writing, whatever. For example, have a look on the word like nice, which means good. Its Latin root is nisar, means to be ignorant, and in 13th century it meant stupid, foolish. Now just have a look. In Latin, where the root word nisar, which means to be ignorant. In 13th century, the same word, the meaning of that word was stupid and foolish, and today we mean it as good. So that is, there is no reason, there is no logic behind it, and that's why it is completely artificial. The second thing is language is restricted. અહીંયા આપનું ધ્યાન દોરું મિત્રો કે restricted સ્પેલિંગમાં એક ટાઈપિંગ એરર છે. તો restricted, language is restricted. When we think and translate our thoughts into language, some meaning is lost in process. Yes. Language is restricted, language is limited, because whatever you want to say and what you are saying, many a times it happens that in the process of thoughts and ideas that you are having in your mind, and the way you are expressing those ideas in the language, in between there remains a gap, or we can say something is missing, something is lost in the process. For example, my school. What does it mean? I'm the owner of the school? No. My school, that means the school where I'm studying. So that is how language is restricted. So in many cases, what you are saying and what you are conveying, there can be something missing, there can be something which is lost in the process of conveying those thoughts and ideas, or the way you are conveying those thoughts and ideas. Next thing that we should talk about is language is abstract. It represents a generalized idea. Many a times it happens. When you are saying dress, when you are saying table, when you are saying chair, it conveys a particular general idea. That means when you are saying dress, dress includes many things. Maybe dress for men, dress for women, dress for kids, whatever. So in general, dress means many things. In the same way, when you are saying table, table can be of any shape, color, and variety of tables, right? So it is very abstract. While you are using this kind of words, it does not give a specific meaning, a particular meaning, a minimized sort of, or we can say a very specific sort of meaning, but it gives a very general idea. So that is, language is abstract. Language is arbitrary. That means there is no direct relationship between word and the object it represents. Why we are calling table as table only? Why we are saying pen as pen only? Why we are saying television as television only? And why not anything else? So there is no reason, there is no logic behind it. There is no connection at all. That's why language is arbitrary. મિત્રો લેંગ્વેજની કેરેક્ટરિસ્ટિક્સ વિશે આપણે એટલા માટે વાત કરી રહ્યા છીએ કે કમ્યુનિકેશનનો લગભગ મોટા ભાગનો હિસ્સો આપણે ભાષા દ્વારા વ્યક્ત કરતા હોઈએ છીએ. એવું નથી કે હંમેશા ભાષાથી જ આપણે કમ્યુનિકેશન કરીએ છીએ અથવા તો આપણી વાતને રજૂ કરીએ છીએ, વ્યક્ત થઈએ છીએ. આ સાથે આપણે બીજી પણ ઘણી બધી વસ્તુઓ, ખાસ કરીને બોડી લેંગ્વેજ અને એ બધું પણ ધ્યાનમાં લેવું પડે. પણ સૌપ્રથમ જ્યારે આપણે કમ્યુનિકેશનની વાત કરતા હોય તો બેસિકલી there comes language. It can be in the form of body language, it can be in the form of verbal language, but there comes language first of all, and that's why we are talking about these characteristics of language. And the next is language is creative, language is repetitive. Now language generates many words in many meanings. For example, have a look: mouse, virus, edutainment. So it's very easy to understand. Mouse means, we can say, an accessory part of computer system, or it can be even a chuha. So that is how you take it, how you mean it, how you interpret, how you understand it. Edutainment, that is the mixture of education and entertainment. So that is again a creativity of language, creative output of the use and usage of our own language. repetitive, it improves, or even many times it reduces effectiveness of communication. Have a look. A couple of girls are riding their bicycles. All of you met together to see me in the afternoon at 3 p.m. Now, specifically in the second sentence, see, all of you, it is not needed. I mean, it is a kind of repetition and it reduces the effect. So you can say you met together to see me in the afternoon at 3 p.m. Again, in the afternoon at 3 p.m. That is also not required. You can say at 3 p.m. By default, it becomes afternoon. That is what I want to say. So it's many a times it reduces the effect, or many a times even it can improve. Language is recursive. That means there is no limit and there is no specific rule to put an end to your sentence, to your verbal expression, or I mean the way you are communicating. There is no limit. Choice is yours. It generates any number of additional parts in a sentence. For example, have a look. He borrowed a pen from me which was not mine. I mean to say that he borrowed a pen from me. It can be full stop here, right? And if you don't want to put full stop, then you can continue. Which was not mine, full stop, or else which was not mine and was given to me by someone. So it is a kind of a never-ending process if you wish to make it a very long sentence. So it is depending on your own requirement, on your own choice, the way you wish to use it. So that's why language is recursive. Now, in terms of communication, you must be aware of two things, and these two important things are levels of communication and flow of communication. તો આ લેવલ્સને પણ આપણે મિત્રો સમજી લેવા જોઈએ જ્યારે આપણે ઇફેક્ટિવ કમ્યુનિકેશન સ્કિલ્સની વાત કરતા હોઈએ ત્યારે. લેવલ્સ વિશે વાત કરીએ તો એક્સ્ટ્રા પર્સનલ કમ્યુનિકેશન, ઇન્ટ્રાપર્સનલ કમ્યુનિકેશન, ઇન્ટરપર્સનલ કમ્યુનિકેશન, ઓર્ગેનાઇઝેશનલ કમ્યુનિકેશન અને માસ કમ્યુનિકેશન. આ 5 categories you can divide, you can classify levels of communication. The very first thing is extra-personal communication. Let us try to understand each and every level of communication. Extra-personal communication is a kind of process, or we can say kind of communication process which takes place between a human being and a non-human entity. As I said in the very beginning of our talk, that communication is a two-way process. That means two parties are required. Who these two parties are? A sender and a receiver. So when the sender and receiver, I mean these two parties are, one is human being and one is a non-human entity. It can be your pet animal, it can be some animal. So communication between these two, I mean man and a dog, for example, that is called extra-personal communication, because it goes beyond the reach of human beings. I mean, you are communicating something, you are trying to convey certain meanings, certain messages to an animal, which is a non-human entity. So this is called extra-personal communication. Second level that we can talk about is intrapersonal communication. Intra, that means within yourself. And when we are saying within yourself, earlier I used this term within and inside yourself, that in terms of psychological noise. So again here, when something happens, a kind of communication process which takes place within yourself, that's called intrapersonal communication. Now, within yourself, what does it mean? For example, if you are feeling very hot, then you will switch on fan. So who told you, who gave you this particular message that you are not feeling comfortable, you are feeling hot and you should switch on the fan? That's your brain who gave this particular message to you, and you are reacting, or else you are putting up your hand on something which is very hot. Again, you are trying to remove your hand at the earliest, very next moment you will react on it, you will remove your hand. So that is a kind of process which takes place between you and your brain. I mean, your brain gives you a message and you react accordingly. Your body parts are reacting on those signs which they are receiving from the brain. So that's called intrapersonal communication. After intrapersonal, let's talk about one more, that is interpersonal communication. Now, when we are saying interpersonal, that means between two human beings, or maybe more than two, it can be, right? So interpersonal communication, that means communication between two persons or among many people, that is called interpersonal communication. And organizational communication, that is, here we can say there are two, or we can say even three different types in organizational communication. One is internal organizational, another is external organizational. Internal organizational, that means within the boundary of one organization, whatever communication is taking place, that's called internal organizational. External, that means one organization to another organization, that is called external organizational communication. Very easy to understand. And the third category you can add here in organizational communication, that is personal communication. I mean, within the boundary of an organization, but on a very personal ground, employees are talking to each other. That is called personal, but in organizational communication. And the fifth one, which is again a very important to understand, and that is called mass communication. A few characteristics of mass communication are: it's a large reach communication, it requires gatekeepers. Now perhaps you will have a question in your mind that what is gatekeeper in the process of communication, especially in mass communication. So when it comes to mass, that means at a time you are conveying something, you are delivering a message to hundreds and thousands and lakhs and crores of people at a time through media. When we are watching television, when we are watching news channels, it is a kind of mass communication. When you are listening to radio, it is mass communication. When you are reading something on website, it is again a kind of mass communication, because it gives message, it conveys message, it delivers an idea or thought or message to many people at a time. So that's why it's called mass communication. And when it comes to mass, we need to be